You're listening to Robin Flan's Drummer Interviews, the number one drum radio show in all of Los Angeles,
the world, the galaxy.
Hi, this is Robin Flans with Robin Flans Drummer Interviews, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Ed Eblin.
Hello, and what a great show with a great guest today.
Oh, don't get ahead of me. So today's guest is a longtime friend and somebody I am so inspired by because he makes a huge difference in the world. And I'm going to just sort of bring him on because I want him to tell everyone his story. And he is my dear, dear friend, Eddie Tuduri.
Hi, Robin.
Hi,
Ed.
Eddie.
Hi, Eddie.
Hi, Ed.
So, Eddie, we go back so far that I can actually remember going out to see you play at a little restaurant in Calabasas. It's not there anymore.
Pelicans Retreat.
Yeah, the Pelicans Retreat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
we all played there in those days. That was there was Josephine's, and then the natural progression from Josephine's was Pelicans or the Cantina, but Pelicans was the kind of the more it was more musical. We'll say that.
Every time I pass that darn car dealership, it's become I get angry. I get so angry now. And that's been for 3 decades. So that's 3 decades of anger. But so you, I mean,
time flies when you're having fun.
It's Ed's fault.
Yeah, of course it is.
But you were and still are a great player, and I've known you forever. And so I want to go back. So some people don't even really know those roots of yours, and I want to go back to those beginnings for those who don't know, and give the audience a little bit of a glimpse of where you came from, and look back a little bit on your playing career. So
it's really fun to me that after my accident, and I put most of my focus obviously into the Rhythmic Arts Project. And we'll talk about that. But I had a girlfriend when I first got out of the hospital, a wonderful lady, Nina, and she was a therapist, and she and I hit it off and became really close and hung out. But she didn't really, I guess she'd heard that I played drums once or something. and then one night she came to this little dump where Chris Pinnick and I were playing. And she heard me play, and she was dumbfounded. She said, "I didn't know you could do that." Not like she was an expert in drumming or anything, but she just thought, "Oh my God, what?"
Yes,
well, I can't believe it. I'm
surprised.
So I really don't. I didn't really talk about drumming much, or after I got hurt.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it, because I know you from those days, and of course, and you have some, fairly decent credits. So enlighten.
I went and looked online today to see who I played with.
Oh, we are getting at that age, aren't we?
Well, I honestly, I'm very proud of it, but it's not in the past. I mean, I did a gig with Michael McDonald a couple of weeks ago.
I know you.
It's not like I'm not playing, but it really. I'm not a working musician. I'm more of a humanitarian today than that, I guess.
I know that you are, but Michael McDonald. Well, I mean, the guy standing next to me right now would give his right arm to do that. But aside from that,
but Eddie did it. Eddie did it for me.
but
we gave you the Jimmy Messina gig, so
yes, you did, and thank you for that.
Not quite the same. I'm sorry.
I wasn't being ungrateful. I promise.
So let's go back. So tell us about your playing career a little bit, and how you came up, and what were some of the breaks along the way before accident.
Well, I came here from Connecticut in 1968 with a rock band. Some guys from New York and Connecticut, and that's how I ended up in California. Actually, we were running away from the police in Muskegon, and ended up in California. That's another story. I guess for many years, all of us who end up here in California have to kind of acclimate to the fact that, I'm from Derby, Connecticut. I was absolutely, hands down, the best drummer ever in Derby, Connecticut, and also the only drummer in Derby, Connecticut. When I came out to this environment, and met people on my own block who were just stunning, guys that they were scary. They were so good. And I did get scared, but I got scared into the garage and practiced, And I lived across the street from Delaney and Bonnie.
Yeah.
And the first place I lived. And then there was a group called Pollution, which was Tata, Vega, and Dobie Gray, and they were a great band. They were headlining at the Whiskey at the time.
Mm.
They became friends with me, and actually I did play with them, two drummers. Dennis Kenmore taught me how to play with two guys. But that's interesting, isn't it, Ed? I mean, it's one thing playing on your own, but to play with two guys and sound like one pocket, that was quite an art.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But it paid off because I worked with Dobie Gray. After Pollution fell apart, Dobie went to Nashville.
Wow.
Tata moved into my garage, believe it or not. And Dobie had a hit record and called me to come to Nashville, so I toured with him.
Cool.
Very early on,
Right.
with the Drift Away.
Right.
And then I actually got to play with. I think Delaney Bramlett was a bigger influence on just about anybody in those days.
God,
At any given time, you could see. I lived with my friend Rick, and Rick one day he called me out and said, "I think John Lennon just rode by on a tricycle."
Whoa!
And he actually had, right across the street was Carl Regal lived across the street. Jimmy Price and Bobby Keys lived two doors down. It was one of those neighborhoods. It was just chock full of people. Leon Russell lived in the neighborhood.
Wow.
All of Delaney's kind of cronies. After a while, Kenny and Sam from Little Feat. Before Little Feat, they were in Delaney Bramlett's band. So it was one of those neighborhoods where you really had to step up.
Wow.
And the influences were such that And then I had a band with Jerry McGee, who was the original lead guitar player with Delaney and Bonnie and Friends. And then he introduced me to Larry Taylor, who was the mole from Canned Heat. And this was that, in those days, Rick Vito moved to town, and Rick and I became best friends and worked with Bobby Whitlock and toured in Europe and all over North America with him. And, a little while later, I got a job with the Beach Boys, and I learned from Dennis Kenmore, who taught me how to play with Pollution. I learned how to play with two drummers. I was actually so bad at the Beach Boys gig, I asked Ricky Satara, who was in the band at the time, to bring his drums to rehearsal, and he would set up next to me and I could copy what he was doing. I couldn't play that surf music. I didn't understand it. You know what I mean, Ed?
The Connecticut boy. Yeah, right.
Specific. I knew about James Brown, but I didn't.
Right.
So I actually talked Ricky into playing with me, and I was scared, so I told Carl. I said, "This sounds great. You should use two drummers on, most all of this stuff." And so Ricky Fattar helped me get through that gig. It was maybe 6 months of Surfer Girl was starting to sound like a blues tune, and I had to leave. And then I joined Rick Nelson's band, and that was even funnier because I had no idea how to play country rock. I knew like 2 beats, and they were like Clyde Stubblefield beats. Went to a garden party. That wasn't working out very well at all. And Rick Rick was great. And I stayed in that band for about a year and a half.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know how.
Well, I guess you adapted.
Not really. In the end, he said, "Listen, Eddie, would you please quit?" He said, "I don't want to tell anybody I fired you." But Hello, Mary Lou is starting to sound like a James Brown film. You need to move along here. So I did, and then I moved into a gig with Steve Perry and Tim Bogert, and that was great. We had a real progressive rock band, Steve's first real band. And we all lived in Thousand Oaks, and we had about 40 tunes. It was great. Love and Touch and Squeezing was one of our tunes.
Wow.
That Steve took to that band. Everybody listened to that band. Nobody would buy it.
Wow.
We recorded a lot of stuff, and some really great stuff I have to this day.
Wow.
But, even Clive Davis came to the studio in Sound City, and he heard Love and Touch and Squeezing. We recorded it before Journey.
Wow.
And he sat there with Steve Perry, and he said, "I just don't hear anything commercial here."
Oh, God.
But that's the case. With a lot of us, and it happens over and over. And I think he passed on the Beatles too.
No comment.
I'm sure he never gave it a second thought.
So Bogert quit. The band kind of fell apart. Bogert moved to England, and I went on the road with J.D. Souther. And that was a good gig.
Nice.
And it was, about 4 to 6 months with the Eagles. We did the Hotel California tour. That was really fun. What I remember of it, it was those days were a little. If they say if you remember that, you weren't there. That was during that time.
Yep.
But Souther was really great. What a great songwriter, great singer.
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very tolerant. Also, of our shenanigans. I would have shot myself. It was cool though, and a great experience.
Wow.
I remember playing the week before that tour at Hazel's Bar in Pasadena for $40.
Oh, God.
On a Wednesday, and then Friday I was in a limo on my way, to 4 sold-out shows at the Forum.
Well, that's how it goes, isn't it?
It is how it goes.
Yeah.
Our friend Vinny said to me, we were all standing around talking once about being on the road and how cool that, when you're on the road, you're in a limousine and you're in this fancy hotel and everyone's catering to you this and that and every whim, and it's really fun. And then Vinny said, yeah. And then he said, then you go home. He said, it's like going from God to cod. And no one's ever stated that better than Vinny did,
Well done.
So, yeah. So, and then all those times in between, there were the country gigs, which I was really terrible at.
I don't know. I think I saw you on a couple of those.
Yeah. I was terrible. I really was. I don't know how I kept. You know what would happen, Robin? They would. I played. I had a different approach to country, and I even with Rick Nelson, I remember we recorded quite a lot. In fact, there's a lot of stuff out now that they released Rick's posthumously and that I'm on. But
really?
Rick had to teach me how to play really straight grooves because I swung everything. Just naturally, played more 16th kind of instead of that's why I was so that's why I sucked with the Beach Boys too. I just couldn't play the feel right. Anyway, Rick Nelson taught me the proper way to do that. And then because I was with Rick Nelson, I got a lot of these country gigs, Freddie Fender and who else? Freddie and Rick and Dwight Yoakam.
Oh.
And, yeah, that was like a sharp stick in the eye.
Really?
Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to. I don't want to say anything bad about Dwight.
Really?
Yeah, we bleeped that out.
He and I were friends for a really, really long time before he really got before he even made a record. He used to pick me up in his Chevy, and we'd go play $25 gigs here and there. I thought he was like one of the most talented kind of hillbilly singers. I mean, he was real. He was very proud of that, and rightfully so. And I think that Pete Anderson, and I'm sorry, who was the original drummer? Ed, do you remember in that band?
For Dwight Yoakam?
For Dwight, yeah.
Boy.
Don something? Or?
I'm blanking.
Yeah. Anyway, that guy, they really made Dwight. I thought really gave Dwight the edge because prior to that he was singing Blue Moon in Kentucky, and that kind of real. But he was so good at it. I mean, I'm not saying that he was more of a bluegrass guy,
right?
And they gave him such an edge,
of course.
That they really put him in a. I mean, I hope he's grateful, or now maybe he's got a chance to look back at that and see, where it really came from.
Yep.
Because he's been pretty good. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and when he asked me to tour with him, that drummer had quit, and I guess a couple of other guys had quit. And like a lot of us, you get caught up in the footlights and kind of forget who we are and where we came from, and you get not me. I've always just been a side man, but I'm sure I would have been a jerk if somebody gave me $1 billion and a Learjet too.
So that didn't go.
Maybe not.
So shall we suffice it to say that didn't go so great?
It was okay,
Okay.
I quit. I quit in the middle of the tour.
Ooh, okay.
He talked me into doing the rest of it. Nobody would take my place. So I finished. We did 52 one-nighters. It was tough. It was really tough. But we became friends for a minute after that.
For a minute, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so there was also like Del Shannon, which was a great, wonderful, incredible man. I loved playing with him. Dr. John and Ike Turner and Brenda Russell and Bonnie Bramlett and Marianne Faithfull. And, to Ronnie Laws and Johnny Rivers. Oh my God! You know Johnny Rivers, Ed?
Well, I certainly know who he is. I used to listen to as a kid the Midnight Special.
Yeah,
and he wrote the title track, didn't he?
Yeah. Don't ever do that, gig.
Don't ever do it. Oh, trust me, he's forgotten all about me.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Is that a tough thing to do with him?
Oh, he's a piece of work.
Oh,
Freddie Fender was great, though. Freddie was really fun, and I loved playing with him. And Charlie Rich.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun.
Wow.
But these days.
All right. Well, you know what? We're gonna halt things there for a minute, and we're going to take a little bit of a commercial break. And I'm going to let Ed talk about a wonderful product that he makes here in the good old USA.
Eddie knows.
All right.
Eddie knows all about this product.
Okay.
Usually I'd have this thing on a little card so we could just sort of play through it, but we're having a little glitch today, so I'm just going to talk about it for a minute. But the Epad Practice Pad, which is my other real job, which is the thing I do during the day. But I've been doing this for almost about 14 years now, and it's a great practice pad. And Eddie and I have seen each other at the NAMM show over the years. And when I was first starting the thing, the concept of the pad was just not something that has a lot of rebound, like the typical, quarter-inch, 45 diameter gum that's out there. And I'm not saying anything bad about the other pads that are out there, but truthfully, this was sort of a thing that came out of a conversation with Eddie Shaughnessy, because I asked him about, like, what does he warm up with on a Tonight Show, and at the time he was teaching drums at the Drummer's Woodshed that I had back in Reseda. And we talked about, like, slower surfaces, and started with just, sort of experimenting with the various types of neoprene that give a softer, rebound, and it's a little bit less strenuous on the muscles and the tendons and that kind of thing. And eventually bought the pad to market. We don't sell like in Guitar Center and places like that. I do this strictly as an online business. But the concept is still a good one, and we still do sell a fair amount of pads. Like I say, we don't do it in the retail format, so you have to get on www.epadco, which is epadco.com, and check out the various products, that we have. And ever since Robin started this radio cast thing, obviously it makes sense for me to talk about it and sponsor it, so to speak.
Sure.
But yeah, and I have people. I get a lot of business from New York too. I don't know if it's an East Coast thing as opposed to a West Coast thing, but more people on the East Coast seem to favor this kind of a practice pad, which is good. I'm not saying it's the only
more people practice, probably.
Yeah. Well, certainly if you're on the Johnny
Out
Rivers
here we
gig.
serve.
So yeah, basically I'm just sort of encouraging people, if you want to check it out, and it's all over, you can find us on Google too if you want to see other reviews and whatnot. But the epadco.com is the site that has the different products with all the explanations. And please go check it out. And now to return the favor, I'm going to let Robin promo her website. Eddie's going to comment.
I'm just going to say, I'm just reminding people to subscribe to the YouTube channel that Ed actually worked on so hard for me. It's YouTube channel, Robin Flan's Drummer Interviews at YouTube. And now I just want to go back to Eddie, because that's more important than anything. And so Eddie, are you there?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
just choking on some coconut water.
Well, don't choke.
I thought the Beach Boys caught up with you there for a minute.
So don't choke, because I do want to talk about the day, actually, that your life changed. And
yeah, that's the most I've talked about my career since then.
well, it was. I wanted you to, because a lot of people don't really know about that. But some people may not even know what precipitated the work that you do now. So I want you to tell us exactly what happened in your life that spurred your life now. I guess I have to talk about Messina for a minute. I met Jim Messina in Nashville, and we had a band. We did a CD there and worked together. Ed, you probably remember that CD.
Yes, I do. It was great. Yeah. You played great on it.
And thank you. He kind of let me play what I wanted to, so it was actually fun. I really enjoyed playing, musically enjoyed Jimmy very much. And I was Engelbert Humperdinck's band leader prior to that, so leaving that situation to join Jimmy's band was a real pleasure. What happened was we kind of burnt out on Nashville, and Jimmy asked me to move back to California. And at first, I think he meant L.A., and I said, man, I won't move back to Los Angeles, but I'll consider moving up to where you are. So I came back here and stayed at his place for a little while until I found an apartment. The apartment was right across the street from the beach in Carpinteria. Beautiful little beach town here. And I always loved the ocean. I surfed, body surfed mostly every day. And having the ocean across the street was like a dream come true. And I went every day. I went swimming every day. And it was one Saturday. I had done a gig the night before, and I had a gig that night. But I just ran across the street to swim. And Carpinteria Beach is called the safest beach in the world, so it's not like we have any shore breakers or big waves, or not even anyone surfing, board surfing. And it was during El Nino at the time. The current was a little strange, and I dove into this wave like any other wave, but it was seemingly angry, and it just bashed me into the bottom. And I was about 20 yards out. I was all alone, and the wave cracked I heard a big crack, and then nothing. And I was 3 feet underwater, totally paralyzed, nobody there. And words always pale the experience, but this near-death experience, as they call it, was a beautiful, warm, enticing, just unbelievable experience for me. It's hard to say what happened. I know that my body, I could see my body, which was broken, floating in one direction, and my spirit in another. And my spirit was floating towards this. It's hard to describe. I tried to describe it once to someone, and I was talking to them about, I had a really beloved dog, like many of us do. His name was Bach. And Bach, I remember looking into Bach's eyes and thinking, no one could ever possibly love me more than this dog. There was such unconditional love in his eyes. People can relate to that. And it was kind of like falling into my dog's eyes. That's how it felt. It was just beautiful, and I felt it felt like I was in God's hot tub. And I knew in order to continue on that journey, I'd have to drown. And I thought, my initial thought was, that sucks, but compared to where I was drifting to, I thought, oh, of course. So I opened my mouth to let the water in so I could discard this cage. And rather than get a mouthful of water, I was gently lifted, and I got a mouth full of fresh air, and I saw the beautiful Carpinteria sky. And then I was placed on the shore very gently.
Wow.
On my back, and the lifeguard with the most seniority on the Central Coast came by and put surfboards up, so kept everyone away from me. Didn't let anybody touch this guy. And he took care of me until the paramedic with the most seniority on the Central Coast happened to be on duty.
Wow. And
he handled me perfectly from the shore to the skid to the ambulance to the hospital. And they rolled, this is a Saturday, they rolled me into the reputed to be the best neurosurgeon on the Central Coast, Dr. Connor. I don't know what he was doing there on that day, but they rolled me right into me. So I'll take this guy. And they did an emergency operation, and I woke up 6 hours later in the ICU. I was totally paralyzed from the neck down. Nothing. And the prognosis was bad. They to make a long story short, they said I would never walk or have any normal bodily functions. But that prognosis, of course, in the end, didn't work out too well for them.
Thank God.
So I was there for, I don't know how long I was in the ICU, but then 6 more weeks in rehab. And during my time in the rehab, this program was born. And it was born out of that, I have to tell you this. When I woke up from the operation 6 hours later, I thought, and I realized I was totally paralyzed. It was okay with me because of the spiritual experience I had. I was really okay with it because I knew I'd be all right. Nobody else did, but I did. And I thought, oh, let's see, I'm completely paralyzed. All I know how to do is play drums. Well, I do, and the first emotion that came over me was, my glad that's over with. And it wasn't drumming; it was the music business. And when will I do with the next gig and the tour? Right. Am I going to? Is somebody going to ask me to record? Am I going to make the rent? Am I good enough? Who's going to? All that.
Right. The competition, the aggravation, the stupidness
fear, thank you very much.
Yeah, I get it.
It's all about fear.
Yeah.
So I that was gone. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wasn't going to compete. I didn't have any to prove anything to anyone, and my life was going to be something else. I didn't know exactly what, but it was going to be good.
Yeah.
And that was how that was the spirit.
Wow.
The spirit that this program was born from or into.
Wow.
And so the first thing that came back when I finally got to the hospital, they had me in a ward, the spinal cord ward. The first thing that came back was my right hand. Mm. And I remember distinctly asking for some sticks and a couple of percussion items my friend Greg Leroy brought to the hospital. And as soon as I was able to hold the stick, I started tapping on the side of my bed, the railing on the bed, and I was going... I went, yeah, I still got it. I'm just ahead. Just ahead, but I'm pretty funny.
Yep.
So, long story short, I mean, that turned into a kind of an ensemble thing because all the folks in the ward that were, either more or less incapacitated physically than I, all wanted to join in. And we had a few instruments. And it was great. We had an old lady in her 70s with spinal cord surgery. We had a guy with pancreatic cancer who had broken every bone in his body. We had a few people in the ward that were really, in the same condition as I. And I gave them parts to play, and we had this little ensemble thing.
Wow.
Not a drum circle. An ensemble. They actually had parts to play. And the doctors and nurses, I thought I was going to get thrown out. And they come in dancing, and this is fantastic, and people were smiling. And then it dawned on me, okay, I get it. And long story short, we fast forward a couple of weeks, I was in a wheelchair. I had my whole right side had come back, nothing on the left, but my right side. I had a drum set in the hospital, and I could roll into it from my wheelchair. And I could play, boom, bap, like that. And, then by this time, everybody, found out that I had gotten hurt, and I asked for instruments. And, we had everything you could think of, cabasas and cowbells and shakers and timbales and bongos and congas and djem, everything. And, I went to my 130 coordination group, and we started passing out instruments. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea because I never did a drum circle, and it wasn't my cup of tea. I think they're great. I think they're great fun. I know some people that do wonderful things with drum circles. It's just, that is not what guys like us do, as a rule. If we're playing, we're working drummers. So, one thing led to another. All the various disciplines in the hospital began to find a use for these ideas, whether it was range of motion or memory, focus, attention. Rehab goals came into play, and we started utilizing all this equipment and my knowledge of percussion and basic musical notation and we designed a program around that.
And
Libby Whaley.
And this was what year?
97.
Yeah. Okay.
September 1997.
Okay.
And you were there, Robin?
I was just trying to remember what year. Okay.
Yeah. Well, in the very beginning, when I got hurt, there were a lot of phone calls and people, because I live here in Santa Barbara, so my friends were in L.A. But I think you and Vinny were the first ones I saw. Like, I don't remember being in the hospital more than a minute.
No, I know as soon as you could have somebody, we were there.
Yeah.
I mean, that was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I woke up and there you guys were. You're both crying. And I said, what's wrong with you? I'm fine. I remember what I said. I said, my back beat's a little weak, but otherwise I'm okay. Yeah. Anyway, that was a lovely moment. I'll remember that for my life. Thank you. So we're in the 130 coordination group, and we started developing real solid ideas. And I started writing these things down, and I didn't have a book or any kind of real curriculum yet, but, I started formulating the ideas. Fast forward, after I got out of the hospital, I walked out in 6 weeks. I don't walk very well, but I walked. And, Libby and I showed the modality to different conferences, and I met a developmental therapist who brought me into the field of intellectual and developmental differences. The very first day, these people lived in Pasadena, and the very first day, I saw a group of kids. I remember this one little kid looked up at me from his wheelchair. He had Down syndrome. He looked up at me and smiled, and the light came on, and I said, okay, I understand. Mm. I understand what this is about and why I'm still here. And I never looked back. From that place, they had about 25 kids there with a plethora of diagnoses, from Fragile X and autism, Down syndrome, Tourette's, and fetal alcohol, everything you could imagine, Vet syndrome. And so I learned quite rapidly about all these various conditions. I read, I studied, and I worked with them and then with other organizations who serve people with developmental disabilities. I just got deeply involved with everyone I could and surrounded myself with a lot of really smart people who helped me and taught me and guided me. And, with all of that knowledge and what little I knew about musical notation and percussion, we started carving out the first book. And the first exercise is teaching people what a quarter note is, and that a quarter note is worth one beat. And this is, and then this is what it looks like. Then I wrote the first page in the first book, there's 4 quarter notes, and it says 1, 2, 3, 4. Folks with developmental disabilities don't always grasp conventional scholastics as readily as they would a fun methodology like this. So what's a quarter note? It's worth one beat. What's this 1, 2, 3, 4? And I give them a djembe. And at that time, we were using kungas. I didn't know what to, we figured all this out over the years. But so then I'd say, what is that? Some of them could count to 4, some of them couldn't. So it helped them to learn how to count to 4. 20 years ago, people didn't give our folks credit for, the wherewithal to learn various life skills. So
like I want to take that into a deeper place, but I want to pause for a moment.
Sure.
And take another break, but we're gonna go into
Ed has something else.
Why not?
No, actually, I'm going to chatter your ear off on something, one of my little projects here.
Okay.
And tell
some background music.
Yeah. Would you like us to sing? Hey, I think that's the first someone's played live on this thing in 9 months.
Yeah.
God, play more. Let's hear that. Let's hear that.
There's just a little djembe. Yeah.
Ooh, djembe.
Is it? Is it?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Take
yay!
it,
I
take it,
like
Robin.
that. Okay, so I'm going to tell everybody, because not everybody. For those who are new to this show, they may not know.
What do you know?
They may not know that Robin Fland's Drummer Interviews has a whole menu of classic interviews that you can purchase, and they're not a whole heck of a lot of money. And they are in audio form, so you can actually hear me interview people that some of them aren't even here anymore, like Jeff Porcaro and Carlos Vega and Larry London and Louis Belson and Ed Shaughnessy. So I just want to let people know that these things exist. It's really I did this out of a labor of love because I felt a little bit selfish that I got to sit in a room with some of these amazing people, and sometimes the articles didn't even include all of everything that was said, and nobody got to hear them laugh and be like I got to. So anyway, these unedited cassettes have been put into MP3s for downloadable audios, and I encourage people to go to my website, Robin Fland's Drummer Interviews. Also, something we just started doing is called Classic Rewind, and we've begun to narrate some of the experience where we're playing a part of the interview, and I'm talking about some of the memories that go with it. So we just started doing this.
Yeah, and actually that Classic Rewind, the first one we did was last week, and that was a Levon Helm interview you did in Woodstock, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
How many years ago was that?
That was, I shudder to think, but it was sometime.
Robin, this is like drum gold.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Just wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, to hear the sound of their voices and the enthusiasm in there.
Even when I hear them back, for me it's like, I mean, I get real teary and I mean it's so they're really wonderful. And they're like, $2 a lot of them. I mean, we're not talking a lot of money here.
Yeah, and that's like $2 per 45 minutes of content. So,
Yeah.
and most of them are at least 90 minutes because you got 2 segments of them.
Yeah, so I mean,
nickel for my interview.
They're really well. These interviews are free, but these classic things are they're a lot of work. I mean, Ed takes hours to put them into an MP3, and we've had to purchase lots of
Gosh, Robin, you don't have to justify it.
Well, I'm just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
So,
No, Eddie, she's doing that for me because the cassette deck we have is steam powered. That's how old it is.
So anyway, I just wanted to tell people about this, and as we head back into this segment, there is somebody I want to give a small shout out to. I want to talk about a Facebook friend who's a member, actually, of a group that I believe you, Eddie, are also a member of, called Can Do Musos.
I'm not actually a member, but I know those fellas.
Okay. So this guy, his name is Marco White, and he's been a Facebook friend of mine. He, at 19, lost parts of his fingers on his left hand.
Ouch.
But he hasn't let that stop him from teaching drums and giving clinics. He's part of the Sabian educational team. He lives in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and he teaches and gives Skype lessons. And he can be reached at at www.happydrumming.com. So I just want to give a special shout out to Marco and say hi to some new Facebook friends, Paul, Mark, Jeff, Jonathan, and always appreciate some new support. And now I want to delve into a little bit more about the Rhythmic Arts Project, Eddie, and have you explain how working with drums and rhythm helps somebody, say, with autism or Down syndrome. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I sure will. Yeah, the skills addressed are cognitive, emotional, physical. It's through inventive exercises that the program teaches and enhances other skills, maintaining focus, using memory, socialization, turn-taking, sequencing, sign language. We teach sign language, laterality. We develop leadership, recognition and use of numbers, shapes, colors, spatial awareness, fine and gross motor coordination, following instructions, communication. I mean, it's not a drum program or a music program per se.
Right.
The easiest way to explain it would be that, when you and I learned how to count to 4, our teacher wrote 1, 2, 3, 4 on the blackboard, and we followed on our yellow lined paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here, a child may not, I think I mentioned, may not grasp conventional scholastic as easily. So we show them what a quarter note is. Then we draw a chart with 4 quarter notes on it, and I give them a djembe. And then I number them, the quarter notes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I ask them to play it. And they play usually with one hand, 1, 2, 3, 4. I ask them to look at it, play it, hear it, and speak it. So you have visual, you have, don't look at the drum as the drum, but the tactile component of the learning curve. So you feel the lesson. It's a drum, so you hear it, so it's auditory. And then you combine that with speech. So it's a multi-sensory approach to what? Learning how to count to 4 by an abstract concept no one's ever used in this respect. So that same quarter note in the next lesson becomes right, left, right, left, right, right, left, left, right, left, 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 right, right, all linear in the beginning. And then we learn to differentiate colors. So I'll have 4 drums with patches on them: blue, black, green, and red. And then I'll show them a chart, and now the quarter note has become red, blue, black, and green. Different colors. And they read the chart, and then they have to coordinate that with touching the proper drum and also speaking it: red, blue, black, and green. Visual, tactile, auditory combined with speech. Then I'll ask them to touch the black drum with the right hand, and they're crossing the midline, which is a very important developmental skill. So it's called temporal organization. Later on in the book, we get into more. This is all linear in the beginning in one direction. Later on, we get into rudiments, which, we as drummers look at as, rudiments. Here, we're looking at a 5-stroke roll because it goes right, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, right, left. It goes in 2 directions. So it's crossing the lobe. It's called temporal organization. So scientifically, we're actually shooting from both sides of the brain, temporal organization. So these methods are designed also scientifically to connect the dots for fine and gross motor skills, for the cognitive enhancement it becomes not only abstract but creative in the way we teach. I'll show you a triangle. So what is this? Well, lots of people might know it. A lot of people might know it's a triangle. Okay, it's a triangle. You see the picture of a triangle. How many angles in a triangle? Well, there's 3. 1, 2, 3. So it's visual, tactile, auditory combined with speech. later on, the methodology becomes more difficult incrementally as the book progresses. There's about 100 pages of exercises and literature which addresses alternative ways to execute the same exercises. It's 18 years of research.
Wow.
And development and I don't take credit. I mean, I've surrounded myself with a lot of really intelligent and brilliant and creative people, from folks like a lot of musicians, and then teachers, facilitators,
sure,
administrators, therapists,
sure,
every discipline.
Sure.
And I've learned, in leaps and bounds from every one of them. I take notes. In the book, I give credit to everyone. It went from I to we rather quickly.
Well, sure,
right?
Sure.
So, when people ask me what is a rhythmic arts project, I just don't have an elevator speech. A lot of folks, have various modalities, can tell you, well, I do this, blah, 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 blah. When somebody asks me for that elevator speech, I ask them, well, how many floors did we have in this building? It's really difficult to explain overnight. A guy asked me recently, he says, well, what do you do? He came up to me at Starbucks. He says, what do you do, Eddie? I heard you do something really cool. What is it? I said, well, I include people. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what's the last time you asked a person with a disability how they were doing, or approached them for any reason at all, ever? When you see someone with CP and he's contracted and maybe drooling and in a wheelchair, you walk by, you don't acknowledge that person, do you?
Mm.
And I didn't say it in a mean way, because none of us really do. We don't know how to approach folks, really, and we think, well, maybe that person, will be scared, or can that person reply, or I'll just keep walking.
Mm.
And so he said he never did. This is a nice enough person. I said, do me a favor, next time you see someone like that, just walk up and say, hi, how are you? What's the worst that can happen? They'll ignore you. You've been ignoring them their whole life. So a week later, he comes running up to me at Starbucks again. He said, Eddie, man, I ran into this guy downtown Santa Barbara, and he was all contracted, like you said, in a wheelchair. And I happen to know who he was. And this guy, Greg, is an old school CP guy. He had a board in his wheelchair, and on that tray, he had a stick he could put in his mouth, and he had a word board with phrases and an alphabet in it. He could point to letters and phrases. And he said, I spoke to this guy for 10 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
He said, I can't believe, he said, it was one of the most rewarding. He said, thank you so much. He said, this would have never happened. I said, oh, thank you. He started walking away. He got about halfway across the parking lot, and he ran back, and he said, Eddie, I promise you, I'll never walk by a person with a disability again and ignore them.
Nice.
And that brought tears to my eyes.
Nice.
Said,
yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
I work with kids in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe and in orphanages and in places where people have ignored this population forever.
Yeah.
All they truly want is to belong. And we give them the tools and the wherewithal to have confidence and to be
included.
Included.
Right.
So they can
I
belong.
get it.
So we have math. We have math where we'll put like a 1, 2, and a 3 on 3 drums. Which is the lowest number, the highest one? What's the number in the middle? What's 2 times 3? What's 3 or 6 divided by 2? So you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide with any combination of numbers. Sometimes we will go up to 4 or 5 drums. Some of the folks I work with autism are so smart. Mm-hmm. They're so smart.
Yeah. Generally autistic kids are extremely smart.
Kids with autism.
Yeah.
Which is the proper way to say that. The thing is, I'll have to increase the numbers. I'll put a 9, a 7, a 16, and a 4. and I'll say, well, how much is this, that, and then they tell me the answer, and I say, very good. I haven't got a clue. If they were right or not. They're just so much smarter than
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I'm good with the three lowest numbers. I can add up to 5 or 6. So, and then we have some real, in this population, there's a lot of folks who are nonverbal. So we teach some basic sign language. And then we add that like I said, how it becomes more difficult as the book goes on. But we use the same methodology, visual, tactile, auditory combined with speech. So let's say we have a triangle and it's blue. Right, so I'll say, what is that? It's a triangle. What color is it? It's blue. What's the sign for blue? And they show me the sign for blue. How many angles? 3. And they play 3 beats. Or they'll get a pentagon, or they'll get any number of shapes. We have, and then we get into accents. You remember Dick, the famous drum teacher? I just went blank. Dick, I took lessons from Dick Wilson.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Dick.
Of course.
Uh-huh.
I remember taking lessons in odd times, and we had to put accents in different places in 5, 7, and 9. So when I was going around the country early on, there were a lot of naysayers. I mean, teachers, administrators, folks who were working with our folks, saying, "Are you crazy? They can't spell or count or do this or that or the other." And I got a little angry, and I went back to Pasadena, where one of my young ladies, I came up with this accent thing, but in 4. Play the 1 harder, then the 2, then the 3, and then the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's difficult to do for any of us, but my kids were doing it. So I recorded that and I sent it along to the people who were the naysayers. I wasn't angry. I said, please don't tell me what they can't do. Work with me to help them accomplish everything that they can.
Right.
They really, really are capable of so much more than you give them credit for. I know you've been doing this a long time. I mean, no disrespect. But, get your head out of your butt. Basically.
Good for you. Well, yeah, because and not only can you push them further, but they're going to feel so great when they accomplish what they can do.
Yeah, and the teachers feel great too. Now we're touching thousands of fellows. We're in 14 countries.
Wow.
And the book is now online. The whole seminar, everything about it. I mean, I remember, now I can sit here in my office and Skype with people. I mean, one day recently I taught in Brazil and Louisiana and Canada and Thailand all in a couple of days, just sitting here.
So
Skyping with people.
Let me ask you, what do you need, I mean, monetarily to continue its growth?
You know what? People donate at the website, whatever they can afford. I write grants. We do, as you know, I have a band, a very strong band, and a lot of, probably hundreds of musicians that have supported us over the years. I get by, we run the whole thing for $100,000 a year worldwide, and everyone is taken care of. That's including instruments and materials and time and everything. For the first 17 years, I didn't even take any money. So it's never about that. We don't need a lot of money, but I do need to pay the rent. And it costs me, depending on where I have to go. Now it's less because we sell the book for $300 total for the 18 years of research and development online, and it's videos and literature and the book. You can download the book to an iPad. So that's very inexpensive, and you can Skype with me forever for nothing. Wow. It's part of the one. I just want to help people.
Right.
It's not about money, but we need money, and if anybody wanted to...
But you need money to continue the program, is what I mean.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying
there's
to get
donate,
at.
Yeah, there's a donate button on the website.
Okay.
Which is trap-learning.org.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not good at asking for money.
No, I am.
Okay.
For you.
Well, go get me some.
Yeah. Here come those phone calls.
I'm just, I always like to get that out there because,
great. No, we appreciate every penny. And here, people, I've been in charity, Robin, some musicians for UNICEF and Save the Children and all these things I've been doing over the years.
I know.
People trust.
I know.
They really trust that where the money is going and what's going on. And my motto here is there's no Rolls Royces in my nonprofit driveway. I have a 2002 Soccer Mom van out there. It's all beat up, but it runs good. People keep saying, "Well, why don't you get another car?"
As long as it keeps running, but don't take any unsafe chances.
Well, I have the AAA. They'll tow me 200 miles.
Yeah, I got the same thing.
Yeah, so I feel pretty confident that I'm gonna get where I'm going, and if not, I call AAA. We keep it close to the belt, but gosh, Pearl has been so nice to me. I don't even know where to begin. They make all the instruments for us. They make all my instruments for me. Ed, have you seen that cool little Master Series kit? I posted it a couple of times.
Yeah.
It is the nicest little drum set I've ever owned.
Oh, it sounds
great.
great.
Pretty lightweight because I can't lift anything.
That's the one you used on the Michael McDonald thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that sounds a great sounding kit. I think the dimensions are. What are the sizes of those drums? Just out of curiosity.
18 by 18. 10 by 5. 12 by 6. 14 by 9.
Yeah, it sounds great.
They kick and everybody mics their drums anyway, but
right.
I mean they're just.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm stoked about this, and this is just as a player, but Pearl has been making all the percussion items, and my those drums I was playing before were the trap drums, which were a Pearl Fun drum. In fact, we haven't really changed much. They're fiberglass with pre-tuned heads because none of the folks I work with are musicians.
Right.
So we make it very simple for people. They sound great right out of the box. You can drop them down a flight of stairs and they're still going to hang in there. And they're inexpensive,
Yeah.
And Pearl does all my import, export, ship, everything. Now they've made a new line of drums of all sorts of percussion items and rain sticks. We were talking about at the show all those beautiful drums. They're from Bali. I still don't know the name of them, Robin, but they're in the new Pearl catalog. And a percentage of the sales will go to the Rhythmic Arts Project.
And don't those drums that we saw at NAMM? I thought I saw this on YouTube or Facebook a few days ago, but don't they have your signature emblem on those Pearl?
Oh, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if somebody were going to buy a particular handlet, djembe or whatever, they
buy one of those. Yeah,
but they can only get it from you on the website, or is this just something that they?
I don't have it on my website yet. In fact, I just called Steve Armstrong today to ask him about sending me the graphics for that so I could put it in my store.
Yeah, of course.
But you can buy it from Pearl. No matter where you buy those drums, they'll send a percentage to us.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's great, Eddie. That's just
they have really stepped up.
Wow.
Listen, when I went to the NAMM show, from Terry and Steve and Glenn, everybody stops everything, and I brought a team. We have a new team of volunteers. We're working in marketing and program direction and business and and adaptive equipment. We have adaptive equipment now I work with a lot of folks in wheelchairs. So we can now position the djembe so that anybody with even a little range of motion can participate fully in the TRAP program.
Wow.
People just light up. So within the next month or two, we'll have all this on the website, all these really great products that people can obtain from, to help them in their work.
And you want to tell everyone what is that website?
It's TRAP, TRAP dash learning, LEARNING, trap-learning.org.
Okay, trap-learning.org.
Well,
cool.
This has been just a fantastic time with you, Eddie. I really appreciate your taking the time to be with us.
Yeah.
That's great,
and actually,
Robin.
I have a favor to ask of you before Robin were to close this out, Eddie. But as she's signing off, would you mind, because we're sort of void of any musical outro for this, but I think it's great because I'd like you just to play us out. You know what I mean?
You want me to play something?
Your drum, whether it's your kit, it sounds like your kit's pretty close by, but yeah, because
I can play the kit.
Play the kit because the kit sounds great, and it'll go for like 30 to 45 seconds, and then you'll be able to hear it back because this thing is going to be able to be shared on the site, so we can send you a copy.
Let me put the phone down here and tell me what it sounds like.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I didn't trip trying to sit down behind the set.
All right. Thank you.
No, I think he's just testing. Oh, maybe not. No, he's testing.
It sound all right?
It sounds fine. So now she's going to do the sign-off thing, and then you go to the drums, and we'll just let it run for 30 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds.
And then you
Can you hear that?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Perfect.
We can hear it.
All right, Eddie.
So you're going to...
Thank you, my friend, for being with us.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And
here he goes.
Here we go. Upcoming is Al Pahanis Jr. Make sure, everyone, check out my Facebook and my YouTube channel. And we'll have all that information when Al's going to be with us. And you can see me on Facebook. And everybody, over and out.
We'll keep listening to Eddie.